I guess one thing that's happening in Ireland is we have PSD2 coming in, which is it's in relation to data, and it's the second iteration of it. But while it was devised in 2015, it's now taking effect, the Public Services Directive. So this is super interesting because one is to give more security for customers and their data, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of kind of almost pre-KYC happening for more. But I mean, obviously they want seamless experiences. And so I guess I find this quite interesting because, you know, no one's speaking about a blockchain, but you know, the technology lends itself to this kind of thing where, you know, the whole black box of our data, but when we need certain things to happen, we allow access to the relevant parts. So, you know, I guess it's almost like I can see things happening even though they don't realize it, because that basically the user wants a seamless experience when they go to do their stuff. The EU are bringing in directives to make sure that everyone's data is secure and to do a duty of care to the users, but put the two together and then everyone's scrambling to find the best solution for this. So that's like a PSD2 thing in Dublin Castle in 2 days' time. And we have another one, e-commerce in Kerry, in a month's time. So sometimes I think even when people aren't talking about it under the name of Morpheus and crypto, these solutions are going to permeate out into the wider area. So I guess those are some dots that I'm joining up, because while Ireland may be slow on blockchain, it's always been keen to be fast on fintech payments and stuff. And therefore, I think we might get there by another route almost, you know, or under another name.
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, for certain, you know, supply chains, it's necessary, for example, to have that trusted data, you know, hashed on a distributed ledger where people can all share that information, you know, that it's legitimate and trusted and so on and so forth. But for a lot of these supply chains, you can use traditional methods of recording data. And I believe a stat through, it was a Food Provenance Project, and they had over 20,000 points that they were hashing down. They were recording basically 20,000 points of data, and only 200 of those 20,000 points were put on the blockchain itself to be trusted points of data. So, you know, it's not like the entire supply chain would be transparent. Based on the use case, you can make it as transparent as you need it to be as well. It's really interesting that you mentioned what's going down in Ireland, obviously. You know, for us working on this proof of concept with the Department of Homeland Security, you know, doing with intellectual property rights, and you mentioned that e-commerce piece as well. There's a bunch of, you know, proposals we have out there for pilots that are coming up. And when there's a pilot that's coming up with Department of Homeland Security, this is through our partners with Customs Direct in the U.S. You know, this isn't, you know, you mentioned that blockchain isn't specifically mentioned, isn't explicit as a part of, you know, that project you're talking about. With the Department of Homeland Security, they have these projects that they want to prove out. They have these POCs, they have these pilots they are funding. And that is definitely the direction they're going, is using blockchain to prove out trusting data, being able to store data in certain ways and access data in the best ways possible.
So look, say with the Homeland Security, if it goes well, what are they looking for your technology to achieve? And, you know, what's the time frame? So what does that look like?
Yeah, no, it's interesting that, you know, this is a project through, as I mentioned, with Jim Lozlowski and Customs Direct, and we built out that we talked about actually as well, the secure access system with our platform, where it was built for a company in Argentina. They wanted to control the flow of trucks coming in and out of this trucking park. And what the truckers, the dispatchers had to do was upload documentation, attach it to the trucks, basically attach it to the unique identifiers on the trucks. This would be the licensing information, you know, insurance, commodity information, so on and so forth. And what Department of Homeland Security is looking to do is, when stuff comes to the border right now, when it comes to intellectual property rights, they want to make sure that the stuff crossing the border is being shipped to and sold at the proper channels. And the way you can make sure is basically the purchase orders and agreements that are in place with the actual corporate. So, you know, for example, if a company, you know, is bringing in a bunch of computers for HP, they want to make sure that HP knows that these computers are coming in, that they're being sold to the proper channels, that HP knows as well. And that's where the intellectual property rights come from. So really a perfect parallel with our secure access system, to have documents, purchase orders attached to the physical goods. We have a unique identifier being an NFC to scan, or a QR code, and that is the actual system. So importers into the US bringing in any sort of product, would have to register the product, upload the proper documentation so that if it does get looked at, or Customs Border Protection does take a look at it, obviously they still have to let some stuff through just based on timing and all that. At the border, any sort of slowdown slows down many supply chains all the way down the line, right? So yeah, really interesting project, and obviously the long-term goal, the stretch goals with that is to have importers register, but also consumers, like you mentioned, on the final end, being able to pick up the data that's attached to those unique identifiers themselves, and be able to assure themselves that there's some sort of level of anti-counterfeit, that it's not fraudulent, goods being brought in and sold at improper channels, that it's not black market, that it wasn't gray market, or whatever it would be. So really interesting project. I love that IPR project as well. And I do see parallels with various governments around the world that are looking to technology. That is where the future is going. How do you optimize what you're doing? How do you improve it through this improved technology that we have?
So I guess, like, if we look at this one as an example, well, in terms of timeframes, like when do they want something from you, and what would good look like? Is this like a 1 to 3 year project, or I guess they have some sense of a time frame, or so how do you see that?
In the discussions, it's been the actual implementation of the full system has definitely been a time frame of 2 years plus. When it comes to the actual POC, we're talking about completing this in the next couple of months. The funny thing is that we say completing it when we're hashing things on the blockchain the whole time, and that's the whole POC, to be able to receive data, put it on the chain, be able to view it publicly. So yeah, we're very confident. Obviously, we can complete it in time since it's already complete. So in the next few months, we'll be past the POC stage, and then we'll be looking towards piling it out and then ramping it up from there. So, and actually for the other pilots as well, they actually give us, certain clients and such that they want us to use through their systems. And we have clients on our end as well through our partners with Customs Direct who can do, in the thousands of transactions right away, testing the system before it goes live for millions of transactions. So.
Yeah, easy.
Easy. Well, you know what? Nothing's made to be easy, and I'm excited about people here. Year, 2 years, whatever it is. That's nothing in the grand scheme of things to put institute a system that's going to be running for the next revolution of technology. So yeah, pretty excited about it, and it's all about building provenance and attaching these documents. And people ask us about various use cases and how it ties in with the food supply chain, or ocean shipping from China, and with various different pilots that we have out there. And it's all about building the history of all these items. And how do you build the history? It's based on those documents, based on those certifications, based on the handling points, based on those IoT sensors, everything that builds up that history, that digital footprint of those items. So excited about any project that allows us to do that. And yeah, this is definitely a really good one.
So I was being flippant, right? And so we were talking about air compressors before, and the Chinese company that was making them. Yeah. So in your conversations with people relative to 3 months ago and 6 months ago, are you being asked the same questions all the time, or is the level of understanding evolving, and are you being asked different kinds of questions now?
Do you know what? There are a variety of questions based on what the main pain point is for a certain company, which I find interesting all the time, just because they'll read what we do, and then they'll write in a general email that I'll read eventually as well, and it'll say something like, hey, we have a lot of customers overseas that we're rejecting because we don't understand the documentation, don't understand the compliance. We see that you've done these overseas shipments. So then we have to ask some questions like, what's the volume? Where are they shipping to? What's the commodity? So on and so forth. Then we go through those steps. So, it's more about what the functionality they're looking for. In the food provenance sort of stuff is completely different. Then it's more about devices. How can we get the devices attached and get those readings from the devices themselves in various points, as opposed to compliance documentation. So, there's definitely projects where people approach us that isn't necessarily our basically go-to. If it's for example a volume of 1 shipment a month to implement for a new location, it doesn't really make sense for our developers to work on that right now. So you have to pick the right projects for the right situation. So.
Yeah. So I had 2 questions then. I guess one in terms of the nuts and bolts. We have a lot of colleges over here starting to do blockchain courses and stuff. And then even recently there was an interesting article on Forbes about how maybe it should have been written in Erlang. So, are there particular languages that you'd like your developers to have, or is it still neutral, or, what are you favoritizing?
Once again, I'm on the business side of things more so. I'll admit that I'm not a developer by any means. So, a lot of companies that we're working with, they're starting out with systems that they've started to develop already, right? So, if it's a Hyperledger based system, if they have something that's completely fresh, we'll use what we have and institute it. And Ethereum is our base chain for blockchains in particular. But yeah, we've actually worked with a variety of different blockchains, different ERP systems as well. And it's basically about integrating with those companies in the most seamless way possible to allow them to leverage our tech, use what we're doing without having to change everything they're doing, right? You don't want, it's like, if you get a new car, a new camera, a new phone, and if you're figuring everything out and you're like, how do I make a phone call? How do I send a text message? How do I start my engine? How do I get going here? It drives you nuts, and you're spending more money on optimizing when it's actually killing your time. So this is the type of thing where they use the same systems and suddenly it's just running smoother and giving them more data and more visibility and just optimizing everything they're doing, basically. So that is our view, and it's basically the tech that the companies are using really guides the way our development team works as well. So,
and I guess that's the thing, that you just want to be the seamless, good experience that works in the background. So, how close are we to that kind of plug in and play scenario?
What we're when you say how close are we in the right situation, we're there. We have our APIs active. We actually have companies and contracts out there, paying contracts that are leveraging our API on the back end as well. We have companies leveraging our platform, actually using the platform itself. There's obviously users of the platform that are using like reduced versions of it as well, just using what's like a document generation or document storage and sharing technique. So yeah, it's when I'm saying, what we're looking to do within businesses is to become mainstream on the back end, where companies are leveraging it all over the place. We have transactions firing off all over the place. So it's not only about, finding one API that's super successful. There's so many different points of interest within supply chain that we're tackling. So it's about really polishing and perfecting every single one of these, pilots, flows, APIs, and everything we're working on. So it's more of and within supply chain, within technology in general, you're never done. We've perfected it. It's working perfectly. We're done. And just enjoy it. It's, in a sense, we're always developing. So it's every day is an optimization as well. So
yeah, which I guess is just the nature of it, that it's constant iteration. That's I think everybody understands that. From the not incubators, with IBM and SaaS, how are they going, or any updates on them?
Yeah, most definitely. The thing about IBM and SAP SAP is that they have so many different companies that they work with all the time. So it's for us, our view is to become a part of like the infrastructure of what they're dishing out for all these other companies out there. So the companies leveraging their ERP, our view with SAP directly, for example, is this fraud prevention protocol that we're developing along with them. Really an amazing system. And the end goal with this is obviously to have an actual marketplace app within SAP system, where if people want a fraud prevention system that's using DLT and the system they need for their business, they're like, what's SAP system? That's Morpheus.Network. So that's how we're sort of approaching working with SAP, is once again, like you said, on the back end, when people need that sort of a, functionality, they're using their ERP, they want to use a marketplace module, marketplace app within SAP system. And that's what we would provide. And we're happy working with SAP, #1 ERP provider in the world. Over 90% of all large enterprises are using SAP system as well. So, being a part of that and the way it's going with counterfeit products and what, DHS is looking to do, and, the US government, as well as many governments around the world, they don't want this counterfeit product being pushed all over the place. And, SAP fraud prevention system, everything goes hand in hand. And I like the way everything's falling into place really well. So.
Cool. I mean, and so I saw that you and Noam have been asked to be advisors. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. So,
yes.
So what kind of advice are they looking for from you guys?
You know what? It's a couple different committees have asked us to be advisors. The ISCEA, it's a European sort of outfit, giving people sort of the knowledge they need to run a blockchain-based system within an enterprise, right? So they see what we've built, they see what we've developed, and actually the other committee we're a part of is the George Brown Artificial Intelligence Advisory Committee as well, which I'm excited to be a part of both of those committees, obviously. The ICEA is directly within supply chain, how to leverage emerging technologies such as DLT and IoT within supply chains. And there's a lot of traditional people in supply chain, and they realize that the future is coming up a lot faster than they expect, and they're approaching different companies to give them the training they need in order to understand what the future holds. So I'm there as an advisor to sort of show people how we've transformed companies to leverage this technology and how other companies are using it. Gives them a real world example, and when they do have questions about parts of their company, that I've dealt with a lot of these situations myself. So and then for the AI committee as well, Noam's been in the tech industry for a long time, and myself, I haven't been in the tech industry for as long, but the way I see it is the data points within supply chain. There's nothing that's creating as many data points around the world in supply chain. There's nothing that would basically create more funds for the world than optimizing using all those data points. And artificial intelligence and the way it's being leveraged in the future shouldn't be about some sort of magical story. It should be about actual real world stuff like supply chain data points. So my view is to really guide it in a direction to leverage it for our clients. We're already working on a couple projects using machine learning, connecting through GeoTab's data system as well. They're storing their data on Google BigQuery, and it's amazing, querying all these crazy tables and exporting it into different machine learning centers and really optimizing based on the data. So yeah, I'm super interested in how George Brown has taken sort of the step in having that a part of their curriculum, the part of the university, and I'm happy to be a part of it and guide in the right direction and help our clients where we can down the line as well. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And say like with AI and machine learning, in theory, like with AlphaGo and things like that, potentially, it's learning faster and perhaps bringing insights that we didn't even expect before. So, like are you guys seeing any of that yet? Or, how's that going in terms of potential insights from that?
You know what? The data speaks for itself, and we're obviously babies in this industry in general, and we're creating our own data points and our own sort of like data sets in order to make machine learning active for our clients and all that. Where we're really seeing it is the amount of funding that the companies are putting towards AI, and knowing that it's crazy. So they have these data points. They have trillions of data points that are not being used properly, and the whole future. They talk about all these techs and why IoT triggers and sensors and all that and blockchain. The real golden goose for them is putting all this data into a machine learning center and artificial intelligence and really optimizing what they're doing. That's where the real money's made. It's difficult to create more sales, and it's negligible the amount of insurance savings and so on. There is an amount there, but the amount they can save by shaving down their operating costs and cutting down what their supply chain is and what they're doing in their general processes is absolutely massive. And that's where the data is going to be used properly. So, and that's where machine learning, artificial intelligence comes in. So,
yeah. Oh yeah. Like, I mean, in theory, there have been root problems where they're too complex for a human to come up with the optimal route, but potentially AI machine learning could be routing the freight in and out in ways that we wouldn't have thought of, but are optimally better. So.
Oh, most definitely. The predictive abilities of it all. And, what's the point of trying to, crack the code and crack the numbers when you have these algorithms in place that can do it for you, and you can concentrate on more important things to make your business better. So, yeah, I'm super excited about AI and the future of that, obviously. And I have no fear that AI is going to take over the world when it comes to supply chain, and it's just going to optimize, what we're doing in that sense. So that's a whole different ball of wax, obviously. So, yeah. Well, Simon, as always, I could talk to you for, until the cows come home and even longer. So I just want to thank you for, taking the time. I know you're a busy man, a busy family man, always got lots of things going on, and family members coming in and out all the time, which is fantastic. And thank you so much for talking to me again, sir.
Yeah, great. We'll check in soon, and good luck with it all.